And my parents gave my sister $100.0 for a business. And I got a book titled How to Become a Millionaire. I returned the book. When they opened it and saw the printout of my bank balance inside, they turned pale. The power. I stood alone in my cap and gown, watching other graduates hug their families. My name is Emma, and today I graduated from college with a computer science degree. My parents weren't there. They were in another state celebrating my twin sister Sophie's graduation instead. I checked my phone again, rereading their message. We're so proud of Sophie graduating. Can't wait to celebrate when you get home. Not a single word about my graduation, not even a congratulations. Just another reminder that I'd always be second best. As I boarded the train home, I found an empty window seat and watched the campus disappear. 4 years of hard work, and no one from my family bothered to show up. I shouldn't have expected anything different. It had always been this way. Sophie and I were born on the same day, but that's where our similarities ended. She was outgoing and charming, with our mum's blonde hair and our dad's blue eyes. I was quieter, more reserved, with dark brown hair and hazel eyes that didn't match either parent. Sometimes I wondered if I was adopted, but the baby pictures confirmed we were twins, just not identical ones. From our earliest birthdays, the pattern was clear. The cake always said, "Happy birthday, Sophie," never "Happy birthday, Sophie and Emma." When I asked about it once, Mom laughed and said, "Oh, we all know it's your birthday too, honey. We don't need to write it." But they wrote Sophie's name every year. I stared out the train window, remembering our 16th birthday. Sophie got a car, a small, used one, but still a car. I got a laptop, not a bad gift, honestly. But I overheard Dad telling Mom the computer was on sale. We saved enough to put more towards Sophie's car. I actually loved that laptop. I took it to the coding club at school, where I found people who appreciated me. Mr. Thompson, the club advisor, was the first teacher who seemed to notice my talent. "Emma, you have a gift," he told me after I debugged a senior's project in minutes. "You think differently. That's valuable." The train swayed, and I closed my eyes, thinking about how I'd used that laptop to build my college application portfolio. I still remember the look on my parents' faces when I told them I wouldn't need their money for college. "We need to talk about college." Dad had said at dinner one night, "We've saved what we can, but we only have enough for one of you." Sophie's business program is very prestigious, Mum added, and with her social skills, she'll make important connections. I cut them off. I got a full scholarship to MIT's computer science program. I don't need your money. The shock on their faces almost made up for years of being overlooked. Almost. "You applied to Monsieur MIT?" Mum asked. "When?" "I've been working on my application for months," I said. "Mr. Thompson helped me put together my portfolio." "Who's Mr. Thompson?" Dad asked. "My coding club teacher for the past 3 years." They looked at each other, clearly surprised that I had accomplishments they knew nothing about. The train announcement snapped me back to reality. 2 more hours until I reached home, though it never really felt like home. MIT had become more of a home to me than my parents' house ever was. It was at Monsieur IT that I met Liam during freshman orientation. We were both awkward, both obsessed with coding, and both had ideas bigger than ourselves. By sophomore year, we were spending every free moment working on our file-sharing application. "This could be something big," Liam would say, eyes gleaming with excitement as we stayed up coding until 3:00 a.m., maybe. I'd answer, trying to temper my hopes. I'd learned early not to expect too much. My rare calls home followed a predictable pattern. "Hi, honey. Sophie just got elected to the Business Student Council. Sophie's internship is going so well. They might offer her a job after graduation." Sophie went to a party at the dean's house. Once, my mum asked, "What do you do in your free time?" "Emma." I started explaining our app, my heart racing with rare enthusiasm. "Liam and I are developing this file-sharing platform that—" "Oh, speaking of friends," Mom interrupted. "Sophie's roommate is from the Johnson family. You know, Johnson Pharmaceuticals. They have a vacation home in Aspen and invited Sophie for winter break. When I visited home for holidays, it was the same story. Sophie holding court in the living room, our parents beaming as she told stories about her connected classmates and promising future. Me, sitting quietly, occasionally nodding when someone remembered I was there. During my junior year, everything changed. Liam and I finally perfected our app after countless all-nighters and failed iterations. A tech company in California noticed us. After months of meetings and legal paperwork, we sold it for a sum that still didn't feel real, $2 million each after taxes. I sat in my dorm room for 2 weeks after the deal closed, staring at the banking app on my phone. The number didn't change, no matter how many times I checked. $2 million. I was 21 years old and had more money than I could comprehend. I told no one, not my classmates, not my roommate, and certainly not my family. They had never been interested in my projects before. Why would I share this with them now? Besides, I wasn't sure how they would react. Would they suddenly care about me if they knew I had money? I didn't want to find out. So I kept living like a normal college student. I ate ramen noodles, complained about textbook prices, and wore the same clothes until they wore out. No one suspected that the quiet girl in the computer lab was a millionaire, and now, a year later, I was on this train, heading to a celebration that wasn't meant for me. Very soon, I'd watch my parents celebrate Sophie's success while barely acknowledging mine. I'd smile and pretend it didn't hurt, just like I always had. The train slowed as we approached my station. I gathered my things, took a deep breath, and prepared to enter the familiar world where I was always an afterthought. I pushed open the front door of my childhood home. The sound of laughter and conversation spilled from the living room, colorful streamers, and a congratulations. Graduate banner decorated the walls, all for Sophie. Of course. Hello, I called out, dropping my bag in the hallway. Mom glanced over from where she was arranging a platter of finger sandwiches. Oh, Emma, you're here. The guests will be arriving any minute. Can you help set out these napkins? No hug, no congratulations, no how was your trip, just a request to help with Sophie's party. I silently arranged napkins while the doorbell began ringing. Family, friends, neighbors, and relatives streamed in, each bearing gifts and cards for Sophie. I stood in the corner, smiling politely when introduced, but mostly invisible. Isn't this exciting? Sophie graduating with business honors. Miss S. Carter from next door gushed to my mom. We couldn't be prouder. Mom beamed. Aunt Clara spotted me and walked over, giving me a warm hug. Emma, it's so good to see you. How was your graduation? I'm sorry we couldn't make it. It was fine, I said, grateful that someone remembered. Aunt Clara looked around at the decorations, her brow furrowing. Wait, are we only celebrating Sophie's graduation today? What about Emma? The nearby conversations quieted. Mum's face flushed. Of course we're celebrating both our daughters, she said quickly. Emma just arrived, so we haven't had a chance to put up my name on any of the decorations, I suggested, keeping my voice light despite the knot in my stomach. Dad cleared his throat. Let's all sit down for dinner, shall we? The food's getting cold. Everyone filed awkwardly to the dining table. I ended up wedged between my cousin Ethan and one of Sophie's friends from high school who didn't remember meeting me before. Before we ate, Dad announced, raising his glass. I want to propose a toast to our amazing daughters. My pulse quickened. Maybe they would acknowledge my graduation after all. To Sophie, Dad continued, who graduated with honors from the business program. Your mother and I couldn't be prouder of your hard work and determination. Sophie smiled, soaking in the praise. And we have a special gift to help you on your journey, Mom added, handing Sophie an envelope. We're giving $100.0 to help you start your own business. Sophie opened the envelope and burst into tears. Oh my God, thank you. This is amazing. I'm going to be so successful. I promise. I'm going to be rich. Everyone applauded. I clapped too, wondering what they'd say about me. And to Emma, Dad said, turning to me. He reached under the table and pulled out a wrapped package. Congratulations on completing your computer studies. I took the package and unwrapped it. It was a book titled How to Become a Millionaire, a step-by-step guide. We thought this would help you on your path, Mom said proudly. It got great reviews online. Sophie snorted, then quickly covered it with a cough when she noticed Aunt Clara's disapproving look. I'm sure Emma will be rich someday too, she said, patting my arm. After I get my business off the ground, maybe I can give you some tips. I stared at the book, feeling a strange mixture of hurt and amusement. If they only knew. Thank you, I managed to say. I appreciate it. Dinner continued, with most of the conversation revolving around Sophie's future plans. her business ideas, her connections, her potential. I excused myself early, claiming fatigue from travel, and retreated to my old bedroom upstairs. My childhood room remained largely unchanged since high school, posters of tech pioneers on the walls, bookshelves filled with programming manuals and sci-fi novels, the desk where I'd spent countless hours coding while Sophie attended parties and games downstairs. I sat on my bed, turning the How to Become a Millionaire book over in my hands. The irony was almost too perfect. My phone buzzed with a text from the real estate agent I'd contacted before graduation. Found a perfect apartment matching your requirements. Available for showing tomorrow at 10 a.m. I smiled, picturing my parents' faces if they knew I was about to buy an apartment outright. No mortgage. No roommates, just mine. A soft knock on my door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in," I called. Aunt Clara poked her head in. "Just wanted to check on you. That was uncomfortable down there." I shrugged. "I'm used to it." She sat beside me on the bed. "You shouldn't have to be. You graduated from SUT, for heaven's sake." "That's incredible. Thanks." "Aunt Clara, do you have any job prospects?" she asked. "Actually, yes. I signed a contract with Apex Tech last month. I start in 2 weeks." Aunt Clara's eyes widened. "Apex Tech. That's a major company." "Emma, that's wonderful." I smiled, feeling a rare moment of pride. "The salary is good too." "I'll be fine." "Better than fine, I'd say." "Does your family know?" I shook my head. "They haven't asked." Aunt Clara sighed. "I never understood your parents' fixation on Sophie. You're both exceptional in different ways." After she left, I opened my laptop and logged into my bank account, just to reassure myself. There it was, $2 million. More money than my parents had saved their entire lives. More than they had given Sophie to start her business. The thought of revealing this information made my stomach twist with anxiety, but also with a strange, forbidden excitement. What would their faces look like? Would they finally see me? I closed my laptop and stared at the ceiling, imagining the possibilities. I could stay silent, continue being invisible Emma, or I could show them exactly what their overlooked daughter had accomplished. The next morning, I woke up early and packed my suitcase. I'd made my decision during the night. It was time to stop hiding my success, not for their approval, but for my own closure. I took the How to Become a Millionaire book and opened my laptop. I logged into my bank account, took a screenshot showing my balance of $2 million, and printed it. I carefully tucked the printout inside the book and went downstairs. My family was already at the breakfast table. Sophie was telling Mom and Dad about her plans to open a boutique marketing agency for small businesses. "I'll need to rent office space, of course," she was saying as I entered. "Something impressive to show clients, maybe downtown." "Morning," I said, pouring myself a cup of coffee. "Oh, morning, Emma," Mum replied. "There's toast if you want some." I sat down at the table. "Actually, I wanted to let you know I'm leaving today." That got their attention, sort of. Dad lowered his newspaper slightly. "Already? You just got here." "I have things to take care of," I said. "I found an apartment back in Cambridge." Mom looked confused. "But you just graduated. How can you afford an apartment?" "I have a job lined up," I explained. "I signed with Apex Tech before graduation." "That software company?" Dad asked, sounding surprised. "Well, good for you. But still, you'll need roommates. First apartments are always shared." Sophie nodded knowingly. "You'll be living with, like, 5 other programmers in some tiny place. That's just how it is starting out." I took a sip of my coffee, trying to hide my smile. "Actually, I'll be living alone. It's a 2-bedroom with an office and good internet." Mom frowned. "Emma, be realistic. Entry-level jobs don't pay enough for that kind of place, especially in Cambridge. Besides," Sophie added, "you need to save for emergencies. That's business 101. I set down my coffee cup. "Speaking of business, I wanted to thank you for the book." I placed the How to Become a Millionaire book on the table. "I think you should take a look inside, though. There was something interesting in there." Dad picked up the book and opened it. The printed screenshot of my bank account fell onto the table. Mum leaned over to look, and Sophie craned her neck to see. For a moment, nobody spoke. Their eyes moved between the paper and my face. "What is this?" Dad finally asked, his voice oddly quiet. "My bank account," I said simply. $2 million. Sophie practically shrieked. Is this some kind of joke? No joke. I took another sip of coffee, trying to appear calmer than I felt. Remember that app I tried to tell you about last year? The one you weren't interested in hearing about? My classmate Liam and I sold it to a tech company. Mum's hand went to her throat. You made $2 million from an app. After taxes? Yes, I confirmed. We closed the deal about a year ago. A year? Dad looked stunned. You've had this money for a year and didn't tell us. I met his eyes. If you had been even slightly interested in my life, you might have known. Sophie's shock was morphing into something else, a calculating look I recognized from childhood, the one she used when figuring out how to turn a situation to her advantage. That's amazing. Emma, she said, her voice suddenly warm and enthusiastic, we should celebrate your success too. I always knew you were smart. This is worth celebrating, Mom said, reaching for my hand across the table. Emma, sweetie, we're so proud of you. The endearment sounded foreign coming from her mouth. Are you proud of me or my bank account? I asked quietly. An uncomfortable silence fell over the table. Emma, that's not fair, Mum said. Of course we're proud of you. I'm glad to hear it, I said, standing up. I should get going. My train leaves in an hour. Mum stood up suddenly, looking desperate. Emma, please stay. We can have a proper celebration for your graduation too. We'll get another cake. Invite people over. I appreciate the offer, but I need to go. I headed for the door. Emma, wait, Dad called. At least let us drive you to the station. I already called a car, I replied. It should be here any minute. Sophie followed me to the door. You can't just drop a bomb like this and leave, she said, lowering her voice. Mum and Dad took out a loan for my business money. You know they're counting on me to succeed. I paused at the door. I didn't know that, I admitted. But that was their choice. We're family, Sophie said. If you have all this money, don't you think you should help? Before I could answer, a car horn sounded outside. My ride had arrived. Goodbye, I said, opening the door. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. As the car pulled away, I watched my parents and Sophie standing in the doorway, their expressions a mixture of shock, confusion, and, most notably, calculation. My phone started buzzing immediately with texts and calls from all three of them, but I silenced it. The train ride back to Cambridge was quieter than the one to my parents' house. No memories clouded my mind this time, only possibilities. I had money, a promising career, and freedom. What I didn't have, and wasn't sure I wanted any more, was my family's approval. At the hotel, I met with the realtor and toured the apartment. It was perfect, spacious, modern, with large windows and fast internet. I signed the papers that afternoon. Congratulations, Miss Wells, the realtor said, handing me the keys. It's all yours. That night, as I settled into my hotel room, I finally checked my phone, 27 missed calls and dozens of text messages. All variations on the same theme. We need to talk. Please call us back. We're so proud of you. Family should help family. I turned off my phone and looked out the window at the city lights. Tomorrow would be the first day of my new life, and for once, I was the one in control of the story. A week passed before I finally answered one of my mother's calls. I'd been busy settling into my new apartment, arranging furniture deliveries, and preparing for my job at Apex Tech, but mostly, I'd been enjoying the peace of not having to explain myself to anyone. Emma, thank goodness, Mum said when I picked up. We've been so worried. I'm fine, I replied. Just busy with the move. We need to talk, she said, her voice taking on that practical tone I knew too well. Your father and I wanted to discuss something important with you. Could you maybe come home this weekend? I can't. I start my new job on Monday, and I'm still unpacking. Then maybe we could come visit you. The eagerness in her voice was unmistakable. Not this weekend, I said firmly. What did you want to discuss? Another pause. Well, it's about Sophie's business loan. We were thinking, since you have such a wonderful windfall, perhaps you might consider helping us pay off the loan. Family should support family after all. There it was, the real reason for all those worried calls and texts. Not concern for me, but for what my money could do for them. No, I said simply. No. She sounded genuinely surprised, as if the possibility of refusal hadn't occurred to her. I'm not giving you money to pay off Sophie's business loan. That's not my responsibility, but we're family. Her voice rose. After everything we've done for you, what exactly have you done for me? Mom, I asked quietly. My scholarship paid for college. I worked summer jobs for spending money. I built my career and my app without any support from you or Dad. Silence stretched between us. I can't believe how selfish you've become. I'm not being selfish, I'm setting boundaries. I took a deep breath. I think I need some time away from you all. I'll call when I'm ready to talk again. Emma, wait. I ended the call. Over the next few days, texts continued to flow in from my family. Dad tried a different approach, congratulating me on my entrepreneurial spirit and suggesting we talk business sometime. Sophie alternated between guilt trips and suddenly remembering shared childhood memories I knew she'd fabricated. I blocked their numbers for a week, needing space to focus on my new beginning. My first day at Apex Tech was exhilarating. The company culture was everything I'd hoped for, creative, challenging, and respectful. My team welcomed me warmly, and my manager was impressed with my portfolio. The file-sharing app you developed was brilliant, she told me during our first one-on-one meeting. That's why we hired you. We're expecting great things. For the first time in my life, I felt truly seen for my abilities, not compared to someone else or dismissed as the less interesting twin. I made friends quickly at work. We started having Friday night get-togethers at my apartment, ordering pizza and playing video games or discussing coding challenges. These people appreciated me for who I was, not what I could give them. 4 months into my new life, Aunt Clara called. Your parents are telling everyone you're rich, but refusing to help family, she said without preamble. I thought you should know. I sighed. I figured they might do something like that. Sophie's business isn't doing well, she continued. Turns out most small businesses don't want to pay premium prices for marketing when they can do most of it themselves online. That's unfortunate. I said, don't worry. I've been setting the record straight with the family. Aunt Clara assured me. Most of us remember how they've always treated you. Nobody blames you for keeping your distance. Thanks, Aunt Clara. So, her voice brightened. Tell me about your new job. Is it everything you hoped for? We talked for an hour about my work, my apartment, my new friends. Not once did she mention my money or ask for anything. When we hung up, I felt lighter. 9 months after my revelation at breakfast, my mother called again. This time, I answered without hesitation, curious to see if anything had changed. Emma, she said, her voice subdued. How are you? I'm good. Mom, how are things there? Sophie's business folded last week, she said with a sigh. She's looking for a regular job now. I'm sorry to hear that. Your father and I are managing the loan payments, but it's tight. She paused. I'm not calling to ask for money. I just wanted to say, I've been thinking about things about how we've treated you compared to Sophie. I said nothing, waiting. I don't think I realized how much we favored her until you showed us that bank statement, she continued. It was a shock to see that you'd accomplished so much without us even noticing. It shouldn't have taken $2 million for you to notice me. Mom, I know, she said quietly. I'm sorry. The apology caught me off guard. It wasn't enough to erase years of being overlooked, but it was something. Thank you for saying that, I replied. Could we maybe visit sometime? See your new place? No pressure about the loan or anything. Just to see you. I considered it. Maybe in a few more months. I'm still getting settled. We'll wait until you're ready, she said. And, Emma, I really am proud of what you've accomplished. After we hung up, I sat on my balcony, watching the sunset over Cambridge. I wasn't ready to fully reconcile with my family yet, but for the first time, I saw the possibility of a healthier relationship in the future, one based on genuine respect rather than financial need. My phone pinged with a text from my coworker Zoe. Team dinner at 7. You in? I smiled and texted back, definitely. As I got ready to meet my friends, I felt grateful for the path that had led me here. The ignored twin had become the successful software engineer with a beautiful home and meaningful relationships. I no longer needed validation from parents who had always looked past me.